Hello. Hi, Shub. How's the audio? Is the game too loud? Am I too loud? Let me know. Hello. Can you hear stuff? Audio sounds good? Excellent. I am early. My family left and I was like, no time like the present. So, we're starting a little early today, but that's okay. You're behind? It's okay. Chibi model is not done. The chibi model's not done yet, so you won't be seeing that for a while, probably. Unfortunately. I'll let you guys know when you should expect it. Or maybe I won't. We'll see. Alright. I'm like pretty much all better with my cold. You may hear a stray cough here and there, but don't worry about it. That's just like stuff getting caught in my throat, so. Yes, I am better. It took a while, but it's fine now. Mion and the others, having to set up for the Watanagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. So I think where we left off, right? Satoko had that breakdown in the classroom. And then Keiichi was like, oh yeah, I have to kill her uncle. I think that's where we left off. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat. It was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rate in the world. I wonder if this is still true. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. At court, they consider whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult-to-solve incidents, involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff. But they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes were skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama, I understood. They must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods. Those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I needed to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes, kidnappings involving disturbing original methods that made it into the newspapers were used as basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night, for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic, artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her. I don't think she'd appreciate a son that murders someone, but you know. What do I think the most well-done perfect crime in all the mystery novels I've read is? Yeah. Well, you read quite a lot of them, right? I figured you might know a lot about them. It's more fun to read them to find out. If I told you all the tricks right off the bat, they'd be no fun anymore. It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer. Of course. Well-done mystery novels. Yeah. They all have a unique charm to them, so it's hard to say which is the most interesting. You'd really have to force me to pick one. I didn't want to know which novels you liked. I wanted to know about the trick that made you the most surprised. If it was really a perfect trick, the detectives wouldn't be able to solve the case, though. That was true. Then there'd be no point. Mystery novels are enjoyable because of the process of the mysteries getting solved. If it was unsolvable, it wouldn't make a very good topic for a novel. I get it. Yeah, you're right. If the main character can't solve it, it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you could get to the goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives. By the way, Keiichi, do you understand that truly perfect crimes don't even become stories? Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time, a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories. What does that mean? Keiichi, what are the essential parts of a story? A beginning, a middle, and an end? Correct. The beginning, of course, is especially important. If there's no beginning, then the story never starts. Well, yeah. If nothing happened, nothing would begin. Right. Nothing happened, so there wouldn't even be an incident. Detectives wouldn't be called, so there wouldn't be any mystery. There would be no mystery, so there would be no solution. In other words, it would be the ultimate perfect crime. Wait a second. Could you explain that again? My mom just told me something absurd. She was saying it so smoothly too, so I kinda tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now. It's not really that difficult to understand. The incident just never has to come to light. That's all. Just has to never come to light. For example, how about this? Say there's an old man living deep in a forest nobody goes into. Uh-huh. And one day, the old man gets killed by an axe. And, let's say the criminal was the old man's son. Do the crime at night, boom, problem solved. True. Limasku, hi, how are you doing? He went to the old man's house and they were drinking together, but they got into a fight and he killed him. Good, I'm glad to hear that. What an extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime, without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime. But Keiichi, the house was really, really deep in this forest. So deep in the mountains that nobody would ever go out that far. It's done, congrats, thank you, I will check it later, Kimono. Then his son would go back to town and say that the old man was doing fine. What about that as a perfect crime? Keiichi, this incident would only begin when it was found out that the old man was killed. Murder? Yes. Keiichi's mom is low-key giving him a tutorial on how to murder someone and not get caught, and she doesn't even know it. If nobody ever visited the old man's house after that, that beginning would never occur. LOL, I know, right? Great, Mom. The beginning would never occur. So basically, the story wouldn't start. The incident wouldn't come to light, and they wouldn't call in detectives. And nobody would be suspicious in the first place, so there would be no mystery. They'd think the old man was still living by himself deep in the forest. And the old man's face would appear in the sky, and that would be it. Something like that, you know? That's amazing! That's a pretty great trick! I feel like that should be a red flag. But it wouldn't be a novel. Mystery novels are for entertainment after all. They can't be instruction manuals for perfect crimes. You were just watching Chainsaw Man? Ooh, how was it? I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside, I was excited. Is this what homeschooling is like? Not from my experience, no, but I never wanted to, go murder someone's uncle, so maybe I don't know. Good, I'm glad. I still need to catch up on that, 20 chapters behind now. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Oyashiro-sama. So someone's uncle's getting killed? Yeah, so, the main character, besides Keiichi in this series, or not in this series, in this story is Satoko. She's I think she's 11. She's a little 11-year-old girl and she's getting abused by her uncle. And Keiichi, whose POV we're going through, he wants to kill that uncle to protect Satoko, so he's planning the murder. When the night of Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. Yeah, so he's gonna try to do it. So basically the story revolves around this festival called the Watanagashi, and every year in this town, one person dies and one person disappears during the Watanagashi. And so Keiichi is going to try to kill the uncle on the night of the Watanagashi so that nobody in town is like, oh, this is like a straight up murder, because it always happens. So they just brush it off as the curse, which is what they think it is. I mean, he'd been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him, after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. Yeah, if you have any other questions that pop up during the story, let me know and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd killed him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. So there's multiple games. Yeah, I think there's 8 total. The first 4 games are considered the question arcs, where they go through the story, but they're left with a lot of mystery. And then the last 4 games are answer arcs, and each one corresponds to one of the 4 stories in the beginning. I believe that's how it works. So this is the 3rd game, so we're still on the question arcs. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of the Watanagashi. So as long as I was standing in for Oyashiro-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more. But please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second. I know that. But please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I'd definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. You're gonna practice drawing me? Aw, thank you so much. I hope you have fun practicing. Good luck. The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable. But this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law. It prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be far more advantageous. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So, What's a staff-like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful, and also eminently portable? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be used as a weapon. Of special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful, even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom, with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desk, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive? That's ridiculous. I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up at the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker, one I had accidentally discovered one day. Here it is. Hojo. This has to be it. If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have 2? I'd made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now, I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been in there. Scrape. I opened the locker, and a stench of mold and sweat wafted out, like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform. And it. The one Satoshi used. The metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me. But this wasn't originally my role. It was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There's no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, I just need to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and thinking it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left the entrance and went to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none, because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And, from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years. You can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitively fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. Bonk. I know, he's gonna be like, bonk, hide the body. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Onigafuchi, the dreadful, bottomless swamp revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too. It was rumored he'd tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up, or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what could I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him to pieces and hide him. But the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then, where I would bury it was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. Profit is all I hear from this plan. He is definitely preparing a lot. I'm surprised that he considered dismemberment though, because he's never killed someone before, and I feel like Keiichi's the squeamish type. With that in mind, I would want to dig a hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily, it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Higurashi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through the woods first. Why is he so eager to commit murder? I know Satoko's uncle's bad, but why Keiichi so eager to kill? So Satoko had a bit of a breakdown at school. So basically Keiichi tried to pat her head and she just completely freaked out. And he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize things were this bad. How do I help her? And the conclusion he got to was that he just needs to get rid of the uncle. And he's like, wait, why am I waiting for someone to get rid of him for me? I'll just do it myself. So now he's planning a murder. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satoko's uncle. Oh, you cut out during my explanation? That's okay. So basically, Satoko had a breakdown at school when Keiichi tried to pat her head. And he was like, oh no, it's so bad. I didn't realize it was like this. So he was like, okay, I guess the only way to help Satoko would be to get rid of her uncle. And so he was gonna wait for someone to, like, kill the uncle at Watanagashi. And then he was like, wait, why am I waiting for someone else to do it? I'll just do it myself. So now he's planning murder. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave. Unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival? Or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come, and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here, on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body. So it wouldn't stand out. So it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place. Digging a hole, huh? Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Mans is trying to bury a body and he only has a spade. He's gonna have to do better than that. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow, I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out. But Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience, as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack. So it was only natural I'd be anxious. He's thinking hard. He's thinking so hard. His brain is expanding. He's gonna become Megamind. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way. A truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? Okay, hold up, Keiichi. You're planning a murder on a grown man and you've never won a fight with kids your age? I didn't have much faith in him to begin with, but this? Ooh. I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. He's not doing so well, not at all. I don't think this is gonna end well. I mean, obviously it won't, but like, worse than I thought. Could I have? All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part? What unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all of my perfectly concealed machinations? I don't know that word. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Dang it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Maebara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder, to kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Maebara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver. "Hello, this is Sonozaki." "Oh, I'm sorry for calling so late at night. Is this Mion?" "Huh? May I ask who's calling?" "It's me, Keiichi." Oh, Kei-chan. It's pretty late. What's up?" She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her syllables out. "Right. It's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks." "Sorry for the late call. Do you have time right now?" "Sure. What is it?" "It's about Satoko." I heard her draw in a small breath on the other end. "Satoko. She's in a pretty bad spot. I hope she's okay." The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice. "She can't be okay. You saw too, didn't you? What she was like?" "She was completely worn out from all the abuse. We failed her all this time, and now she's become like that." "We didn't fail her. Everyone tried their hardest to help her. But we didn't come up with anything. And we couldn't save her. In the end, we couldn't do anything about it. And now she's become like that." "I guess you're right. All I did was watch after all." "So, well, at least... couldn't we at least let her have fun for one night?" "Huh? Let her have fun?" "She's been so battered lately. You understand. That's why I want you to take her to the Watanagashi festival tomorrow." "I don't mind. But why?" "Why? I want to give her a breather, at least for the festival night, you know? Even if it's just one night. If she can get away from her evil uncle, then I think she'll be happy, even if it's only for a little while." "Yes, but why?" "Why? Why what?" I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me. "Why? Well, I mean, why don't you bring her, Kei-chan? Why do you need to ask me to do it?" Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp. Well, I actually have something to do tomorrow. I can't make it to the festival. So I wanted you to take Satoko there for me." "Something to do?" "It's nothing major. I'll probably finish quickly, but I might not be able to meet up with you all tomorrow." "Hey, Mion, could I leave Satoko to you? Just for tomorrow night?" Mion took a long time to give her reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions, or something. "No." "Huh? Was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying?" I said no. I don't want to. I don't want you to push this onto someone like me. I'm not trying to push anything onto you. It's just for tomorrow night. That was a lie. What? Mion, what was she talking about? Saying it's just for the night of the Watanagashi. And then it was forever. Liar. But I guess we're even, huh? I couldn't keep the promise I made with you. I left her alone. Alone. All this time. I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a daze. You never came back after that. And now you call me again to push her onto me. You're so unfair. Hey, you're Satoshi-kun, aren't you? Mion, what are you talking about? When I said her name, whatever spell Mion was on Mion was released. I'm sorry. It's nothing. It's just that I got a phone call a lot like the one you're making now, a long time ago. Was it from Satoshi? Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver. Sorry. I think I'm a little tipsy. I got all weirdly emotional. Sorry, I probably scared you. I had no idea how it happened. But I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did. Satoshi didn't go to the festival, did he? Yeah. He said he had something to do and couldn't make it. And he told me to take Satoko there in his place. At the time, Satoshi said it too, didn't he? That he'd leave Satoko to you? Yeah, he did. Just for tomorrow night. The way you said it was just like how he did. I just got a little upset, caught up in a memory and all. I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival. I get it. A few days later, Satoshi, he disappeared. Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko. Yes, he didn't transfer or run away from home. He disappeared. And then, an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, could it was Satoshi? Huh? What was that? Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt, too. Her aunt abused her the most. And on that night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it? Last year, Satoko's aunt was beaten to death, wasn't she? Would it be impossible for Satoshi to have? No, but that would mean... But then, Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable. I actually considered that as well, though it didn't mean to Satoshi. A few days later, he disappeared on Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi. He wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and though he achieved it for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then, he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was the choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All the money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo, if the rumors were true. Was that how Satoshi disappeared? I don't know. That Oishi guy seems to think that way, though. Oishi. Had he been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit? The circumstantial evidence is all there, but I think your deduction is wrong. They caught some lowlife somewhere in the prefecture, and he apparently turned himself in for the crime. That was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was solved. You're done drawing? How'd it go? They said he really was just a crazy person, and that he had no ties to Hinamizawa, and no relationship with Satoshi, of course. I mean, I have a pretty hard time believing the guy would lie in Satoshi's place. It went okay? That's good. You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. You forgot years? Oh no. It's okay, it happens. I sometimes forget details like that too. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish. Plus, I don't think Satoshi had the kind of money to run away. That day he withdrew all his savings. No matter who I tell this to, nobody believes me, but that stuffed animal he said he was buying for Satoko, it was gone from the display. Sold. It must have been Satoshi. Wait a minute. If he didn't use the money to flee and bought the stuffed animal instead, he would have gone back to Satoko, wouldn't he? It seems unbelievable he'd buy it and then disappear without having given it to her. Yeah. So now I don't know what happened. It would be one thing if he had the money, but if he used all his savings on it, he'd be totally broke. You can't live a life on the run without money in this world. I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic. Sorry, I think we got off topic. Satoko, right? Don't worry. What I actually already invited her. Huh? You serious? When everyone went to the shrine to prepare for the festival, we started talking about getting Satoko to the festival itself. So then I used the phone at the assembly hall to invite her. Her uncle was acting distant and didn't seem to care at all, but in any case, we got the okay from him. We decided to all meet up and go together tomorrow. This confusing, maybe the guy died though. I assume Satoshi died. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the uncle is the one that, like, chased him down and killed him. Cause then his uncle ran away from the town for a year and just recently came back. So maybe he ran away to avoid the police. Yeah, that I feel like that could have been what happened. You okay with that, Satoshi? Stupid. I'm not Satoshi. I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood. A way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for that slight difference. Sorry, I guess I didn't need to call then. First yesterday and now today. Sorry for, saying such weird things. Just forget about it. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Losing it like that isn't like me. I'm really sorry. We apologized to each other for a little bit. Alright, I'll be going now. Good night. What did you have to do? As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt. Or is it like with Satoshi, where you can't say? Stupid. I keep telling you, I'm not Satoshi. Yeah, I know that. What do I use to stream? I use OBS. Is that what you're asking? Or is there like a particular thing you wanted to know about? I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that. Don't know what that is. Oh, it's a program. It's called OBS. It's like stream broadcaster or something. Basically you download it and then you hook up like streaming software to it. So like Twitch is one, YouTube could be one. But after you hook up your account to it, you just click go live and you stream. Alright, this time for real. Good night. I don't know why you're giving me the same phone call as Satoshi-kun did, but... yeah, never mind. I'm sorry. Good night. I'm hanging up. Click. Yeah, if you have any specific questions, let me know and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. But I'm also kind of new to this too, so... Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini. Got it? Yeah, no worries. But now I didn't know what to think. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me, trying to carry out Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi, the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd be overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression of a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then, as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. Whack the uncle. Yes, he's gonna go bonk. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer, the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi has been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. Bonk, bonk, bonk. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now? The kind worthy of Satoko's love. I'd never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face. And yet I felt so connected to him. I'd never felt that way before. Man, we gotta wait for the murder now? So sad. Note on the housewife murder case. Ooh, okay. 1 hour of stream. I know, right? Alright, new tip. July blank, 1982. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi. Blank Prefecture Police Headquarters for the eradication of drug-related crime. Shishibone Branch Head, blank blank. Regarding incident blank, designated as undercover investigation. This message, I can read. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. This is just a movie? Yeah. I think there's like one game where you can actually make a decision, but the rest of it is just like, it's literally like reading a book. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of suspect blank blank, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you, duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect blank blank was the perpetrator of the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. but the responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Administration B-112. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question. And as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that suspect blank blank died while in confinement yesterday on XXX. So I guess the guy they originally arrested for the murder, he knew something, but they're not sure, like, if he was actually the perpetrator or not, and then he died before they could get too much out of him, I think. Tip's confusing. I need to get my uncle. He's a police officer. Yeah, there were a lot of words in there that I did not understand either. It's cool that your uncle's a police officer, though. Alright. Well, we will end Higurashi there for today. But we can move on to drawing now.